So everyone, welcome back to LTV Lab. Today we are joined by Kyle Feigenbaum and Dana Ben David, two of the co-founders of Healthybud, which is a functional dog food and treat brand, originally based out of Canada. And a few weeks ago, I placed an e-commerce order from Healthybud, and today we're going to walk through the standard full customer journey as I experienced it as a first-time customer of the brand. So Kyle and Dana, welcome into the lab. Excited to have you here.
Definitely. Thank you for having us.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for having us.
So Sure. So for anyone who doesn't know about the brand, can you give like a quick kind of like 30-second explainer about the brand? And then we'd just love to hear like how you guys came to start Healthy Bud based on like your unique backgrounds.
Yeah, I can go at it. So basically, Healthybud is a premium freeze-dried raw food company. The whole concept behind it is taking some of the amazing ingredients that we've incorporated into our own diets and bringing those healing and beneficial ingredients to our dogs as well. And the backstory behind that is, uh, you know, back 10 years about, I was really suffering from Crohn's disease at the time, having a lot of gastrointestinal issues. And going through all kinds of lifestyle changes at that time too, but recognize that food is very, very powerful when you're having gut issues, and started changing my own diet, incorporating things like slippery elm bark and marshmallow root, and the simpler things too, just removing gluten, removing sugars, detoxifying the body. And during that time, um, while I was getting into the weeds and starting to understand diet, my family dog passed away very, very suddenly. She went from being healthy one day to being diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, hemangiosarcoma, blood cell cancer, and passing away. And so that really shook me to my core as somebody who's always loved dogs, and they've been my best friends throughout my life. And so I started to naturally wonder, why did this happen so quickly to Roxy? Roxy was her name, and recognize that a lot of it came down to the food that we were feeding her, and we were feeding her completely wrong. And naturally, the next thing I did was try to understand if the amazing ingredients that are impacting my life in such a positive way can also impact the lives of our dogs. And so that was really the story behind Healthy Bed. And obviously, the answers were off the charts, yes. And a lot of these amazing superfood ingredients can also heal our guts, our dog's guts from within. And that was the beginning of Healthy Bed.
Got it. Okay. I mean, every like top scaling brand I've talked to honestly has an origin story that just starts with like a problem that they've solved in their own lives that they've looked to solve. So that's really interesting. I'm curious to know, Kyle, just because like as an outsider to the market, I feel like there has been such an evolution, probably like I can just think of it as like the past 5, 10 years, where like whether it's like dogs or kids or like all these different kind of like n- niche markets outside of just like adult humans,
Mhm.
um, there's this evolution of like taking things that are like trends and like health, like proven health benefits for adults and applying those to these other niches. When like was Healthy Bud initially started? Which year?
We launched in 2020.
Okay. I'm curious to know from you. So it's been like 5, 6 years now.
Mhm.
Have you seen the market evolve over that time when you kind of looked at it as like, oh, there's like I want to take these health benefits that I'm feeling for myself as a human and apply it to dogs. I'm curious like what the state of the market was in 2020 in terms of like competition and how that's evolved.
Yeah, totally. And Dana, I'll let you add to this if you want. But I think, when we started this business, there was a larger gap between innovation within the human industry and then innovation within pet. And typically, if something came out in the human industry and became very popular, it would take a very long time for that to hit the pet market, if it ever even did. But now, as the mentality surrounding raising a pet at home and raising a dog at home is shifting, and millennials and Gen Zs are really, treating their dogs like an extension of the family. They're starting to question whether, the ingredients or the changes that they're making in their own lifestyle can also impact and be beneficial for their dogs. And so that window has narrowed down quite drastically, where if something is now being talked about in the human industry, like for example, biohacking and longevity is very, very popular now. And so right off the bat, pet parents are starting to think, is there opportunities to biohack their dog's life and bring that idea of longevity to their dog's life. So the industry has changed quite a bit. I would definitely not call it trends. I think it's just underlying knowledge, right? And as consumers are becoming much more knowledgeable on what they're putting into their own bodies, they are doing the same for their dogs.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that
I'll
makes
add
perfect sense.
I'll add one quick point about that. There's also this term that came to the forefront right around the time when we were starting our business, which is called humanization in the pet industry. And I think that's kind of what Kyle's alluding to. So it's the idea that like how the values that you have for yourself, you're now going to impart them like on your dog. So if let's say you read ingredient labels before you buy, you're going to do the same thing for your dog. You're going to, I even see this all the time now. It's like if you would put a baby in a stroller, now people are putting dogs in strollers. If you want your kid to be fed well, now you want your dog to be fed well. And all of these like ideas and concepts and values that we would attribute to the human space, there's no break between the human and the pet space anymore. It's just kind of one, which if you think about it, also to a certain extent makes sense, right? And that's really at the core of Healthy Bud is good food, no matter if you're a person or a dog. Our hearts work the same way, our livers work the same way. Like we have, you know, same organs. So good food is good food all around. And we're trying to bridge that gap between human health and pet health. And we're doing that through just good, clean, powerful nutrition.
Got it. I love it. And honestly, I love the parallel that you worked in between like having a baby in a stroller and a dog in a stroller, because that's like the exact thing I was thinking of in just like my view of the world and like how
Yeah.
pets are not treated. So yeah, love it. Cool. So Kyle, you mentioned the word like pet parents, and I think you might have as well, Dana. It's a good like segue into the customer demo, and I'm just curious to know like who do you look at as like the core customer demographic today in like the beginning of 2026?
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, Dana, do you want to take this one or?
Sure, either or. Pretty much one brain at this
The
point,
the one thing that I will say is that we never use the word pet owner because you own something that is physical. You can own a table or a chair. You don't own a pet. A pet is its own sentient being, and you become a parent to a pet. And so we feel that, in bringing a pet into your life and bringing a dog into your life, you have a responsibility to take care of that animal and feed that animal well. And so, when we look at our target audience, that's really what they feel and what they recognize, and it goes beyond just age because we can look at our ICP and target it down to age, but the reality is that we see very two common cohorts, which is the Gen Z millennials, let's call it 25 to 40 years old, and then we also have a lot of interest from customers who are later in their years. And there's an interesting parallel between those because it does lean quite female in gender. And we recognize that females make a lot of the buying decisions when it comes to pet ownership or pet parenting. And even when it's through a couple or a single female, for example. And so the parallel between those two age groups is um, you may be later in life and maybe an empty nester. For example, you had a family, the kids have moved out, and now you have a pet, and the pet now becomes the main focus of your life, and that relationship and that bond grows very strong at that particular time. Same for if you are, earlier in your life, and you might be a young couple, double income, no kids, and before those kids come into your life, the pet becomes that focus. And also, if you're single and living with just a dog, that dog is a huge part of your life. So that's how I and we think about the age groups, but it's really more about the mentality surrounding wanting more for yourself, being active and outdoorsy and health seeking and health conscious, and those are the types of pet parents that are in our community.
think those are also the pet parents that are the easiest to acquire, I would say, because some of our best customers actually are not that, and they might not be, let's say, I don't like fit and physically active and like a wellness junkie, as we call it, but they love their dog so
Mhm.
much. So it's almost like if you had a scale of how easy it is to acquire a customer, because there are so many different kind of customers that buy from Healthybud, but the one common denominator is they just want the best for their dog. Um, and it's really interesting to see how that spreads across the scale. You know, some of our best customers are men in their mid 60s, that found us and their dog loves their product. A lot of the times, like our stickiest customer are actually the ones that come from pain point, and the pain point is more often than not like my dog doesn't like their food anymore. They're not eating, they're really picky, and it's actually a kibble diet. Like all of the time, it's a kibble diet. They never come to us being like, my dog doesn't eat another freeze-dried raw food. But it's very rare that that happens. Um, but it's usually a kibble feeder, which I wouldn't say is typically our target audience, because with someone who feeds kibble, chances are there's just more of a learning curve there, and you have to really convince them and explain them why and justify the price that's 5x or 8x, right? So it's, but they're still technically a perfect customer if they can kind of get over that hump and realize like, hey, this is really going to help your dog. And that's also why, not to deviate too far into this, but that's also why we have the bites as an option, because it makes such a great meal mixer. So we even now have a product that's great if you still want to feed kibble and you want to do better. So we are trying to appeal to a wider audience, because good food is for every dog. So it's really about how we speak to them in a cohesive manner and have this very, you know, messaging that's tailored to each of their pain points. But really, the risk of sounding like, we're trying to be everything to everybody, it's really like every dog should have healthy buds. So it's like, how do you speak to them in a way that's going to resonate and get them to get on board?
For sure. And I'm actually happy you brought that up because like from what you just explained, what like I would define it as like in one sentence is like the core customer demo is anyone like who wants the best for their dog.
Yeah.
Like they want their dog to live the healthiest, best life possible. Um, I'm curious to know, like we talked about like the market and maybe like the supplier side of things really evolving over the last 5, 6 years. How do you look at the current state of the market in terms of like how educated the average
Hmm.
consumer is in terms of how
Hmm.
they look at like what they're feeding their dog? Because I know that you just mentioned, Dana, like there are those different segments of customers, but I'm just curious, like the average person who lands on the Healthybud website, either from like an ad or organic social post, where do they live on the spectrum of like dog food is dog food to like I really want to like understand what like my pets like ailments potentially are or like what they might be susceptible to and like find and like fine tune a diet for them
It's a good question. I think it also it depends on, is the person in Canada, are they in the United States? I think that in the US there are so many, the market is like 10 times the size. So there are more brands that really dive into like the wellness aspect of pet and talks about custom, there are more custom meal plans available. I still think that while the market is still, it's advancing and there are improvements that we've been waiting to see. It's a very different pet space than it was in 2000 when I had my family dog, my golden retriever, and we used to go to Costco and buy the huge bag of kibble and lug it over the back. Like those days are where I can say confidently, like we've moved away from there. We didn't know, but now I think the change is happening, but there's still, in my opinion, there's still a lot of, there's an educational hurdle to to jump over, especially with our formulations, because we really lean, like our goal is to lean innovative and to create these formulations that are not like our competitors, that actually are impactful without, they're not supplements. We're making just fully balanced meals, but that go the extra mile. So when we're putting in prebiotics and postbiotics, do I expect the average customer to know what inulin does and chicory root and dandelion? Like, not really. But then the other question is, do they need to, like, how much do they need to know to be
for
able
sure.
to make a better decision? So that, like, I think as a brand, I kind of learned this, I don't say the hard way, but we were really focused, and this is probably really going to tie into like your segment, but like we were very feature focused versus results focused, and that was a problem. Features are important, but at the end of the day, people just want to know, is this going to help my dog? Has it helped other dogs? You don't need to, you know, explain to them until the cows come home what inulin does for them. Like it's not as relevant. They're not as interested. And I think the attention span of the average customer online is just, it's shot. So it's really about like just packing a punch and distilling it to its like simplest form. So I think that to answer your question, the market is ready to receive better products. They're ready to believe that there are better options, but I don't necessarily know if they care to go so deep. There will be customers that do. We see it all the time, or we have customers ask about, the ash content, the moisture content. Like they're getting in there, they're scientific. We're talking to our co-manufacturers and the experts on our side, getting all those answers. And I actually love when that happens. It's just so telling of the time that we're heading towards, but it's not the average. So it's fun. It's fun to be in a space where people just love their animals so much. And I love our dog so much, and so I get it firsthand. So it's really fun to be at the forefront of this and continue working to bring other dogs
I
the
think just
best.
quickly, like when you're looking at like the awareness level of a customer who's coming from, Meta or Instagram or whatever channel and landing on our website, you're looking at like the completely unaware potential customer, the problem aware customer, and maybe the solution aware customer. Like we are
Mhm.
not encountering the solution aware customer so much, but we're also encountering the unaware customer a lot less. And so I would say a lot of the people that are starting to land on our website recognize that there's a problem, be it, my dog's on a highly processed kibble diet and questioning like, am I actually feeding my dog the best food? Or my dog's not really eating their food anymore, or is having digestive issues or something like this. And so they're recognizing that they might want something better, but they don't really know what that something is yet. And that's what we're seeing a lot of on Healthy.
Just as
Got
an
it.
aside on that note, like I was just sitting in a coffee shop a couple of days ago and there was this long-haired Frenchie. They're so rare. It was so cool to see. So I had to obviously start talking to this couple and I'm like, what is this dog? Like beautiful. Oh my gosh. And I obviously had samples on me. And I said, does your dog have allergies? Can I give him a treat? And I can give them our food. So they're like, of course, but like he doesn't eat anything. And I'm like, all right, challenge accepted. Literally, it was gone within 5 minutes. They ordered from our website within the hour because they're like, I've never seen this before. Like my Frenchie has a sense of something that doesn't eat anything, always like grazes, smells. And those are the moments where I'm like, okay, this is our purpose. This is why we're winning. We're helping pet parents. We're helping dogs just live their best life through nutrition. Like food is the main thing that they need to live a good life, right? So if we can meet a random stranger and help solve a problem just through a little sample bag, like that's a good day. So just wanted to share that because it was a recent win.
Yeah, no, that's wild. And like one of the main reasons I'm jealous of entrepreneurs on your side of the table who kind of just get to like bring those solutions into the market and like see the results in real time. That sounds awesome. Um, okay, that gave me a lot of really like useful insight to like how you guys think of things. One question before we get a little deeper into the customer journey, because you just brought up like that idea, Dana, of like it being hard for a lot of pet parents to like find a product that their like pets actually enjoy eating. Would you say that has been one of the biggest challenges in going to market, like with these solutions? Is like, is it the actual formulas, or is that actually like, was that one of the earlier, like easier wins?
No, for me, from my perspective, it's just how do you cut through the noise? It's product differentiation. Um, yeah, it's really tough. There's a lot out there. And again, like people, especially in today's day and age, are being sold things left, right, and center from the second you wake up to the second you go to bed. No matter where you look, everyone's trying to sell you something, either, covertly or just like. So it's the challenge is really is cutting through the noise and just getting them to try the product, especially with a high quality product like ours. And based on the, not to get too into the nitty gritty, the size of our business, we don't have the same economies of scale as we would if we were, one of the big guys or the big gals out there. So you work with tighter margins and the acquisition costs. Like you don't have as much room to play, and our product's good. So the costs are higher. So just getting it in their hands, which is why we're very excited about our new sampling program, because just when they try, they buy. That's our saying. So I would say it's more about, you know, getting them to pull the trigger and put it in their cart and try it out. Because we know once they do, they're in. So it's a marketing challenge. You want to stay authentic. You don't want to have like cheap marketing. Uh, when I say cheap marketing, I mean, there's lots of ways to get attention,
Mhm.
but like, how do you do it in a way that's on brand and with integrity and that's
Genuine.
very genuine and authentic? Because those are our brand values, and yeah, it's a big space.
That's why we have
There's
our
a lot of
30-day.
competition, so
That's why we have a 30-day money back guarantee, right? And
nice one, Kyle.
right.
I'm happy you touched on that.
That's it,
Go ahead.
because I recognize that, like Dana said, when people try, they end up buying, and a lot of dogs who are deemed to be picky by their parents uh, absolutely go crazy for their food again when they try Healthy Bud. And so not a lot of companies will offer a money back guarantee because they just don't have the confidence that we have that picky dogs will actually love the food. And that's what we have at Healthy Bud. And so that's why we want to have people get over that hurdle, and that belief that their dog is so picky it's not going to eat anything. Well, like that's not the case with Healthy Bud. They just have to try it and they'll see.
Got it. I'm actually really happy you brought that up, and I'm going to bring it back into play in a few minutes. Um, but yeah, all of that like makes complete sense. So basically, looking at like how the customer journey started for me, when I landed on the website, like I noticed that you guys currently have a like mystery discount, and like for anyone who's watching who like isn't aware, this is called like a micro commitment pop-up form. So we've talked about it on almost like every episode of LTV Lab, but like this is one of the highest converting types of pop-up forms you can have. So like great on you guys for having this. I'm assuming this is done like using Aaliyah, like the pop-up format. And I am just curious to know. So like the two, I'd say like highest performing, most common types of pop-up forms today are what you see here, which is like just a straight up like micro commitment with a discount. So like, do you want a discount? Yes or no? If someone says yes, then they're much more likely to give you what you want in exchange on the next page, which is in this case, first name and email. The other type of pop-up form is like a zero-party data collection form that also has like a micro
Hmm.
commitment component. And I'm sure like you guys have probably seen this, or anyone watching has seen this, like when you're shopping around, where it would basically say something like, "You've got a mystery discount. To claim it, let us know." And then it's like there's four options
Yeah,
with like, so it's like a
yeah.
Q&A. I'm just curious to know on your end if this is something that like you guys have tested in the past, if it's something that you thought about,
Hmm.
and like most specifically, what I'm trying to figure out is if there was one thing that you knew about a shopper who was coming to the site for the first time, like what would that one mutually exclusive like data point be that would really help you to like push that person in the right direction and like sell them on why they specifically need Healthy Bud? Is there anything that comes to mind?
For sure. So there's two things that you brought up. One was the kind of like multiple choice selecting pop-up quiz. We A/B test that actually. So it's like, tell us about your dog. Everyone loves to talk about their dog. So
Mhm.
the chances of getting them to reply when you're asking them about their furry friend, it's higher. So it's like, does your dog suffer from anxiety, digestion issue, mobility issues? Just get them to divulge information about their pup. So that's one that we're testing. It's relatively new. So I think since you've been on the site, maybe you haven't seen it, but this one is performing better for us these days. And then one data point, it's funny that you ask that. For me, we're really trying to push food right now because we can acquire, it's a lot harder to acquire a food customer than a treat customer. And I think what we need to know is like, does your dog picky? We're very confident that picky dogs like our product. So it's like understanding their biggest pain point. And if it's like digestion issues or picky eating, like we've got them. The challenge is if they don't have that, if they're just like, hey, I'm looking to try something new, it's harder to land. It's always more helpful to know what they're struggling with, um, because our food helps with lots of different things. It helps with, digestion, and it helps with picky eating, and it helps with, you know, there's two kind of umbrellas really. There's like how we help the dog and how we help the person, and we always like teeter between marketing to both of them, right? So as a user, if I'm normally feeding frozen raw food. One of my pain points, for example, would be, oh, I forgot to thaw my dog's food, or oh, I'm
Mhm.
traveling and I don't have temperature controlled, fridge or environment to store my dog's food in. So Healthy Bit is actually a really great solution because a big pain point for people when they travel with dogs is like, oh God, now I have to switch their food. And if they switch their food, their stomach's gonna get all upset. And now we're traveling and the dog's gonna have diarrhea and it's a whole disaster. So our solution is like, well, you can get the convenience of kibble with the power of raw and not have to worry about this whole digestive upset. So that's like a very specific but very valid pain point and solution that we can really solve. But that's not relevant for someone who's feeding kibble, for example. So it's very, when you ask about a data point, like it really depends on I guess the answer, I'm like thinking through the answer as we're chatting. It's like
Yeah.
also like, what do they currently feed their dog? If they're currently feeding kibble, it's going to be very, like, we're going to have a very different conversation. If they're currently feeding a competing freeze-dried raw brand, another very different conversation. So maybe that's actually my answer. It's like, what are you currently feeding your dog?
And
And then we can go to town.
with the form that you're testing, do you know off the top of your head like what that Q&A is?
What do you mean by that? Sorry. Uh,
You said you were like testing like this form against the like zero party data one?
oh, we had two. I'd have to check. This was a couple of weeks ago, but one of them was about like the just pain points. Like tell us your biggest pain point with your
Yeah,
dog. And I think it was digestion, picky eating,
got
anxiety.
it.
Um, but there was another, and I'm not remembering it off the top of my head right now. But it's more one was like dog based, and one was like human based. So
Got
I can
it.
find it actually.
Yeah, no, but the truth is like it's a conversation I have very often, like whether it's like with our clients or other like people on LTV Lab, which is just like you just got into it where like there's a lot of these like if else statements, like if they do this,
Yeah.
then like this is the type of question you want to ask them
Hmm.
and the data point you want to have. And it can be really, really difficult to get that down
Hmm.
to like one question. So I think like if you guys are at the like pain point stage, that's probably the best place to be at, where like if we know what your dog's pain point might be, whether that's like anxiety or like gut health as an example, like we might not know the like next questions or the next answers to the questions we would want to ask, but at least if we know they're a picky eater, like you said, like we can talk to you in a really specific way that explains like why Healthy Bud is the best option for
Hmm.
picky eaters, and like here are the like potential solutions based on that next like uh, question answer set that
Hmm.
would be
Hmm.
for you to take. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think like the one other thing I would want to call out here, just because this is like something that we've seen a lot in the data when working with brands who have tested this in the past, is a lot of brands will test a pop-up form like this versus like that zero-party data form, and will come up with the conclusion that like this form, like this variant, performed better. And what's really, really important to look at is like the opt-in rate, which is like what I'm assuming
Right.
you're referring to when you're saying like it performed better, but then also like the conversion rate of new prospects who are signing up.
Right.
So the way that like we want
Right.
to do this is the welcome series between people like who are receiving this form and then
Right.
receiving because what we have seen in the past is like this form can convert a lot better in terms of driving opt-ins. But then once someone gets into the welcome series and is actually
They don't
receiving
buy.
exactly like if someone's receiving personalized messaging based on that data point, the conversion rate from that side of the flow can be a lot higher than from this side of the
Right.
flow. We don't have that data
Exactly.
point. Like,
Because
go ahead.
exactly, because this is almost like what's the quality of the leads that you're getting, right? Here you might be speaking to someone who's maybe they're just like cheap and they want the best deal. They don't really care about anything more than that. So that's also something that we've also kind of struggled with and we're playing with right now, and it kind of ties into our paid media strategy too. Like we're bringing people to the website. What's the quality of those leads? But that's a good point that you bring up about just like the personalized avenue and makes sense that it would convert better.
For sure. Cool. Okay. So that like makes a ton of sense. The rest of the pop-up form was like very standard over here. I was intrigued or like it was interesting that you're asking for like my first name versus my pet's first name, just because I like feel like from a marketing perspective, like you said, like if you're targeting like those pet parents who are like obsessed with their pets, like sending an email out, and like I'll get to this in a second, but you guys send a lot of like very good plain text emails like from the founders. Um, my gut reaction would be that like I'd be more intrigued to open an email that like had my pet's name versus my name, because it's like just taking that next step there. But I'm just curious to know if that's something that like you've A/B tested or um, like
It's a
played
good
with.
question because I'm always looking to be like a healthy amount of like cheeky and fun and playful. But I was thinking about it from the perspective, if I got an email that said, "Hey Lila," it wouldn't speak to me the same way. I'd rather be like, "Hey Dana, how's Lila doing?" That's more relevant. Like I'm not Lila, so it's not, that's going to
For
be like
sure.
weird to me. So you're actually looking at an old pop-up, by the way.
Oh,
We've changed it since. But I think if it's not implemented already, it's like your name, your dog's name, and the email. We also usually ask for the dog's birthday because that's a way that we add this really like personalized fun touch and a reason to like check in at least once a year, because like who's going to reject, we give a yearly birthday gift to every
okay.
community member for their dog. So we used to have that as our main pop-up, like want a yearly free birthday treat for your dog, and then it's like, yes, like what's your dog's name, what's your name, when's their birthday.
Mm,
um but it didn't, I don't think that performed as well as like something like this. But I love that question because everyone loves their dog, and like it's cute to have, we need to know their dog's name to have a custom and personalized communication through the whole marketing experience, right? Like we can't not know their dog's name. So good point.
for sure. Okay. Um, cool. The next thing I want to call out, to like going through the rest of the customer journey, you guys just have a very, very like clean user experience on the website. It's like extremely easy to like navigate across like the products I was looking for. I actually bought this for my mom's pug, and basically I just
Mm.
asked my mom what she was interested in, and she had said that like she had seen the meal patties on Instagram, I think, or maybe from an ad, and she really wanted to try them. So this is what I bought for our pug Ollie. And basically, what I noticed on the website, and I think you guys are doing a really, really good job with this, is like subscription is heavily motivated, I would say. It's like you have like subscribe and save like in the like navigation links right at the top here. You are like defaulting to subscribe and save when someone lands on the PDP. And I'm just curious to know at a high level, like how you guys look at subscription and how it plays into the customer journey at this point.
Yeah, I can take that. So subscription has become our key revenue driver at Healthybud, and that's something internally that we've recognized because the cost of acquisition is high when you're thinking about dog food, and so when we're giving away an incredible offer like a 30% off your first order, we're really banking on the fact that the customer will return. Because we're not making money on the first order, right? We're giving a really sweet deal. So for us, what we've recognized is that the average Healthy Bed customer actually returns 12 times. The customer lifetime value is exponentially higher than a one-time customer. So for us, it really makes sense to incentivize people to subscribe. But it also makes sense for the consumer because they're getting the best deal and they get the convenience and they get the free shipping. Um, and and it's great for the dog. If you really want to make an improvement in the dog's life, you have to have routine in how you're feeding the dog and the diet. And so it's just better for all parties, and that's why we're really pushing subscription.
100%. I think like the product is built for subscription. I'm curious to know if you have had any hesitancy, and I guess like the data shows, like in terms of the percentage of first-time customers who opt for a subscription. My gut here, and like you talked about the like picky eaters, like when I was shopping, I just wanted to, I wasn't sure if my dog would love it, and this is kind of like tying into what my next question is going to be, but like that 100% money back guarantee, like absolutely got me over the hump in terms of knowing like, okay, like don't have to worry about this being an issue. But from a subscription standpoint, I was basically just like, let me try the product with like a one-time purchase first and then subscribe if it makes sense. Do you like know what that number is, Kyle or Dana, like in terms of first time conversions
It's about
that convert on
30%,
subscription?
which is quite high for us, and it's growing rapidly.
Yeah.
Um, and but that's where it stands today.
Got it. And is there anything that you can share for anyone watching this that has like made a big impact on elevating that?
Some of the things that you called out, so highly incentivizing customers to buy on the PDP rather than trying to incentivize them at the unaware level or the problem aware level, which is, before they land on the website, whether that's through, meta channels or anywhere else that you're advertising. Because previously we really tried to market the subscription offer very, very early on. But then we recognize that running our ads and saying like get up to X% off, and that's going to be depending on how people interact with the product display page and what they actually want, is perfectly fine because they're already on the product display page and they can already see where they can find the best bang for their buck. And so when we say something like up to 30% off on our website, you get 15% off for subscribing to an 8 pack. And on your first subscription, you get an additional 15% off. So that's the 30% off that people are recognizing. Um,
Mhm.
and so, we let them do their work. I mean, you have to make it very, very simple for the consumer, but if it's simple and enough on the page that they're landing on, then they can do the work from there and understand where they're getting the best bang for the buck.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing that. Something that I just noticed looking at this, which I actually missed the first time when I was on the site, is this like minimum 2 orders
Mm.
required before canceling. I think this is genius, especially when we're talking about like those LTV metrics. How do you actually execute this?
It's a hard one. Um, but the reality is that you can't cancel directly from your portal unless you put in 2 orders. So if you're going to go through the effort of
They'd
calling
have
us
to
and like,
reach us.
yeah, they'd have to reach out.
Yeah.
So because Healthybud is very, and by the way, like it's 2 orders because again, like we're so in the hole on the first order because we're giving such a good offer
Right.
that we want you to come back for the second order. But what happens if they reach out to us, the first order they're like, my dog didn't like anything. We're like, cool, it's a challenge. We're gonna give them something else so that their dog likes it, so that it makes sense for them too. So we're not trying to hold anybody
Right.
hostage. We're really just trying to ensure that they're not coming to the website and choosing a subscription instead of a one-time
Right.
purchase to get the best deal with the intent that they never even wanted to like subscribe. That's kind of what we're trying to avoid. But with our subscriptions, regardless of when you can cancel or not directly in the portal, you can also cancel on Gorgeous or through the live chat or through email or through phone call, things like that. So we don't make it that hard. But in the portal, you're always going to be able to pause your order, delay your order for up to 90 days if you're going away or something like that. So if you end up ordering too much on your first order and want to take a small break, you could do that. So it's all very easy and convenient for the purchaser. But what we're trying to do with that is avoid those who are just coming for the best deal and not intending to return.
Yeah, and honestly, I just think this is really, really smart from an operational perspective. And you saying that like you can potentially like downsell, cross-sell someone into another product that they
Mm-hmm.
like, and just like get customer service involved before someone cancels
Yeah.
is something like so valuable for other brands to take away from this. I didn't even know that this was like possible within. Are you guys using like Skio or
No,
what are the other
we use
platforms?
Loop, but it's very similar to Skio. Like Skio would be the other one that we looked at. I think
Yeah,
I think it's really valuable and it it allows us, like you said, to have a relationship with every one customer. So if we recognize that, they subscribe and now they're having an issue with whatever it might be, even something as simple as like my dog didn't like the beef protein, then the customer
yeah,
service representative has an opportunity to get in touch with them and make things right. Okay, we can give you a full credit to try the turkey, or let us send you a new bag of the lamb and salmon, or like, what kind of dog do you have? Okay, that particular dog, let's say it's a Chihuahua, has done very well with patties over bites because Chihuahuas have small teeth and sometimes the bites are too hard. So like we know these types of things, and we're able to make recommendations based on that once we've opened up the door for communication with the customer.
got it. I love it. And this is selfishly why I love LTV Lab because I get to learn like some of
Hmm.
these really unique strategies that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. So that was an awesome explanation. Thank you.
For sure.
Um, cool. I also noticed that like in the cart, you guys upsell subscription. So like you guys are doing just a really, really good job of like leading people down that path. And
Mhm.
like that 30% number is obviously credit there. Cool. So I went ahead and placed my order. And the next thing I want to talk about is just like your packaging. So number one, like you guys have a really nice branded box, which like right away just elevates you above like the standard Uline brand box. Something that we talk a lot about like on LTV Lab, and I think this is like very applicable to a product like Healthybuds, is unless you're shopping like a very premium brand, like something that you're considering to be like a luxury purchase, the default like expectation around shipping is like I just want to get my product here like in one piece and have it arrive like basically in a way that looks like what I'm expecting it to look like from the website. Anything above that like doesn't tend to be that necessary unless you're going like really above and beyond. So I think your packaging is really strong. I think like on the actual packaging, you have like probably the most beneficial information we've seen from like any brand on LTV Lab, where like you're just making sure like you're providing all of the resources and benefits that someone needs to have here. I'm curious to know like how much thought has gone into your packaging and like the role that you find kind of like the initial like unboxing experience plays in the customer journey.
I'm like triggered by this question. Not actually. I joke about it because like I'm not a package designer, but I've just been by default assigned that role given my background in the creative space. So I just kind of took
Yeah.
on package design. So I um oh God, how do I even answer this question? How much thought, a lot of thought went into it, right? Like we did kind of industry research. What are our competitors doing? What do they put on the bag? I am so OCD. Like I look at the first picture you took of it like crinkled like that, and I have like major anxiety because like it should never ever look like that. But there's so many factors. Like this is what I learned being an entrepreneur in this space is like there's so many things that are under your control, not under control, things that if you want to fix them, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And is that money worth it? Like at the end of the day, is it moving the needle that much? Do other people care as much as you care as a creative? So it's like there's that fine line and that dance there that's like very difficult to navigate sometimes. When we first started, it came down to like me having OCD about the sound of the crinkle of the plastic because to me, some of it sounded really cheap and some of it felt like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say like it's very hard to articulate, but some plastic when you crinkle it, it just sounded cheap. And then the other one is, does it actually, when it's smushed in the bag, are the creases remaining, right? Like there's so many things to think about, even, you know, you're focusing on D2C, but I'm thinking even retailers when it's on the shelf, you always have to think about what it's going to look like on the customer's counter when it comes out of the box, when it's in the store shelf. And it's very hard um, to kind of standardize that without paying like a lot of money, which when we first started this brand, like it's not even an option, right? And then we are also looking at sustainability and the different types of plastic. Like you want the nicer plastic, it's really bad for the environment though. So it's always like a priority dance, right? But when it comes to packaging and what you put on it, it's incredibly important. And we made a lot of mistakes in the first round, a lot of them actually. We have some very funny reels of like reacting to old packaging now that we've done this for many years. And we're just like, how the hell did this ever get greenlit? Like, I don't know. It's funny in hindsight, but it's important that um, you think about the competition on the shelves in store versus like the D2C experience. Because the D2C experience, you know, you can change that more easily online and, you know, update the renders and speak to them and sell to them in a more direct manner. But on the shelf, like your product needs to look good when you're walking by and it needs to grab your attention. So um a lot of thought went into it. The size of the window. The biggest learning for us was like, do people shop by by protein or do they shop by like the name of the product? So if you look, I mean, you order the food, but if you look at our functional chews, like our turkey gut booster, um, it's called like it says turkey meat and liver. That's what we put straight in the front,
Mhm.
horizontal. And the way we stylized it was it said gut booster down the side. So you kind of have to tilt your head, which is a bit ridiculous, but we did it, I guess, to stand out. which kind of worked. But at the same time, everyone started calling it the turkey meat and liver product. And we're like, wait, what is that? And we're like, oh, the gut booster. So we realized that people are actually more enticed by the protein because they also think, what proteins can my dog not have? So they're more conditioned to think like that's how I'm going to shop the shelves. It's like, well, my
For
dog can
sure.
only eat beef, right? So that started to be that, as we went through package design iterations, we take our learnings from customer feedback, from our looking at our competitors, and just also being hypercritical, and just you live and you learn when you don't actually have prior experience in this world. And it's still challenging as we go along. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough information on the back to make people feel confident about their decision. They need all the information about, the ingredients has to be bilingual, right? Just being from, in Canada and from Quebec, like there are a lot of laws about that, which present a lot of challenges and difficulties from a design standpoint. So there's that. And yeah, a mix between a little bit of storytelling on the back and tips and feeding guidelines. Like there's a lot that you need, and then how do you present it in a manner that feels natural when you're scanning the bag? So it's an art and a science, and it's a bit chaotic. And then you print like 20,000 bags and realize that there's a typo on it because you've been staring at it for 6 months, and like it's very stressful, but also a lot of fun, and then very rewarding to see it on the shelves. But it's a lot.
If I can help calm your anxiety or OCD at all, I can tell you that like I had none of those thoughts around like the sound of the bag or like the crinkling or whatever. Like this was an overwhelmingly like positive experience because of how branded you made it. I think like that's the key here. Like it really just
That's nice.
like is a sizable like Healthybud bag. And then like the thing that I found really really useful was like the recommended feeding guide and like this tip to like use as a meal topper. Something that like we talk so often about on LTV Lab with other brands is like as a brand, there's so much content that lives on your website, whether it's like on the product page, whether it's on like your About Us page, whether it's like anywhere on the site. It's very easy to think like, oh, this content exists, like someone probably saw it and knows about it. But in reality, like the typical shopping experience is like you get an ad, you go to the website, put your email in the pop-up form, like go to a
Yeah.
few product pages and then buy. And that's where like there's just a lot of missed opportunity
Mm,
typically for brands to like not those really important things.
mhm.
And I think like this is just a really good example of like taking those like high impact educational bullets and just like putting them right in front of someone at a really like opportune time. And I will give you a lot of credit because I didn't like I was kind of just like reading the English and like wasn't paying too much attention to the fact that like there was a lot of French in here. But like I give you a lot of credit because like now that I'm looking at it with fresh eyes after you said that, it's not easy to like have all of this here and have it like not be overwhelming. And I think you guys did a really good job like with that constraint.
Thank
So
you.
a lot of credit
Thank
to you.
you. And I think now it's getting, thank you so much. I think now it's getting even tougher because I think everything on the bag needs to be translated. Like there are rules around how small fonts can be too. I think it's more intense in the US. Like you can actually be sued for having like a font that's way too small that certain people
Mhm.
may not be able to read. So the more information you put on the bag, like if we were to translate absolutely everything, how small does that font need to be? Can people actually read it? What is the most important information that actually needs to be in both languages? But it's this is not even 100% translated, and it's still so heavy on the information, so it's tough. um, but we want to make our products accessible to everybody, and our website is fully translated English French, so hopefully that's good for now. But we maybe we'll be doing a rebrand soon, something fancy where it's like fresh slate, somebody who's an absolute animal at package design, and we take it to the next level. But I appreciate your kind words. Really nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, just my honest customer experience. I know you guys have to jump in 5 minutes, so I'll hit you with one last question. So over the like 30-day period, I received, I believe it was 34 emails. This is by far like the most emails we've received from any brand that's come on LTV Lab. And the biggest lesson that any other brand can take away that's watching this is just like send more emails. And I think like you guys have probably learned this over a period of like playing with the amount of cadence that you guys send that. But like if you send more emails, you're probably going to generate more revenue. I did buy it over like the BFCM period where there was a lot to talk about, a lot of like reasons to remind me of the offers that you had that were ongoing. But outside of that, like I found the cadence really strong. I found like the way that offers were presented to be like extremely strong. And one of like my biggest takeaways was the like really good balance between like branded image based templates like coming from Healthybud and then like the founder based emails that were like more of a plain text nature. And I think like the standard ratio, because like plain text has become very common over the last couple of years. I think like the standard ratio we see is probably like 10% of emails are plain text, maybe 20%. From you guys, like it at least felt like that ratio was higher. And I do think as a brand, like you have a great story, you have like the ability to like personalize the brand, add personality behind it. I'm just curious to know like how you look at like your role as founders within Healthy Buds broader marketing and like how that potentially scales as the brand like continues to get bigger.
Yeah. I mean, I could say like our role as founders is extremely important to our community and our brand. I think one thing that's missing in the pet space, and I'll get back to the text-based emails in a second, but I think
Mhm.
one thing that's missing in the pet CPG space that is not missing in the overall like food and bev or health and wellness CPG space is more founder story. And there's too many pet companies. Like I really can't even name like less than the fingers I have on one hand who the founders are of other companies in the pet space. And so I think that lends an amazing opportunity for both Dan and I, who like to talk to our customers, who are pet parents ourselves, who experience the same problems, that our customers are experiencing, to really get out there and like tell our story and try our very very best to be there for our customers. And that's something that we're really going to focus on this year. We're getting out there a lot more, trying to tell our story. Like the story that I shared with you at the beginning of this call is very, very real. And even till today, like I'm managing autoimmune issues personally, and that requires a whole bunch of dietary restrictions and changes in my life and whatnot. And it's like the story that I've shared and the power of food that I recognize as something that's very, very real. And we're going to try to share that as much as possible with our community. The one thing that I'll share about text-based emails is that we find very often that as founders, as brand operators, you just overthink things. Like you want to, especially at the onset, like I'm also a perfectionist in many, many ways. Like you want everything that goes out to be like its best possible format. But what we've realized is that you don't need it to be. And like the text-based emails is a perfect example of that because we oftentimes get our best, response rates, open rates, click rates through text-based emails. And so there's so much going on in our brand, and sometimes we have to rejig things and push emails or cancel emails that we had planned to send and things like that. And so we just will very quickly be able to replace it with a text-based email. Let's say we want to get in touch with our subscribers because a new feature in Loop, the subscription platform that we're using, came out where we have like a quick action for everybody that canceled their subscription. Now we can get in touch with them and maybe give them a specific offer to reactivate their subscription. And that's something that came, to us very quickly, and we want to act on quickly, but we don't need to develop a whole designed email for it that'll take our time and energy. We just do text based, and oftentimes we get a better response anyway. So I think you're right. Like I don't know what exact percentage ours is. I don't know if it's 10%, but it's become a decent portion, and it seems to work. So
Yeah, no, thanks for that explanation, Kyle. And like something so interesting there is just like you bringing up the potential of like reconverting someone who churned, like as a subscriber, let's
mm,
say, is just like one of many touch points where I can easily picture someone who like has a quasi like parasocial relationship with the founders because they've been hearing from you is
mhm.
going to respond way better to that coming from a person that they have this like relationship with versus the brand.
Yeah,
So that actually is a really interesting.
yeah.
Okay, guys, I know you got to jump. But thank you so much, guys, for coming on this episode of LTV Lab. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I'm sure everyone else who's listening will have as well. A lot of really great nuggets to take out of it. So thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.